Hi, everybody. Today we have David. He is the brand director for Printify. He's worked at companies like Travel Perk, Prezi. He's also had a TED Talk. What options did you have? Any advice that you have for people in their 20s, who want to start off, let's say, in the marketing or the brand space, don't know where to start off? So yeah, feel free to, share more about that.
Well, thank you first for asking me. Yeah, it's a pleasure. All that formalities, but like really, I mean them. It's a pleasure to talk. And before this call, you told me not to be too self-deprecating, but I can't help but just be a little bit of like, I hope that I can help in some way, but I really do encourage the find your own path kind of mentality. And I think that's really what you're getting at. So please, big disclaimer that I've made lots of mistakes along the way, but sometimes the mistakes are really valuable, right? Like, I don't think anybody wants to make mistakes. It's not like you go, hello, can I make a mistake, please, so I can learn? But there is a value to them, and I would, let's start there. I would say that if I think about, like, one of the things I do quite well is I'm quite good at bouncing back from a mistake. Like, I don't know if I would, like, I'm really bad. I'm going to be really bad at telling you anything about like what I was like in my 20s. Like, sure. I feel quite disconnected from my 20s version of myself. Like, it could be because I spent far too long enjoying myself in my 20s, and I'm having to think quite hard about that. But I have more recently worked with or managed, or like, that's such a horrible word, managed, like been in a team leading people who have been in their 20s. And this is going to immediately sound so old manny, but I see I feel like I've seen quite a lot of, there's a lack of willingness to be vulnerable. And I mean vulnerable in the sense of, try and say this without resorting to a cliche, but in order to like progress, succeed, evolve, any of whatever words you want to use for it, you do have to do stuff, right? Like you have to do something, and whenever you do something, there's always a risk that it won't work, right? That it'll go wrong, that like people will look at your idea and go, well, that's a stupid idea. Or like, even what can be worse sometimes is like, you put in the work, you do the commitment, and for things out of your control, like it doesn't happen, right? And I think that I see people in their 20s who kind of see that coming, right? Like they sit there at the beginning of their journey and go, well, I could do that, and but that might happen, and that happened, and what are the chances of that? And look, there's my friend over there, and she did it, and it's not working. And so I think I would really, really encourage people, just do. Like, really, just do. Like, don't think too hard about what could go wrong. Try and think about like how you can make it go right, how you can make it better. Can you do this? Like, whatever the thing or project or thing you want to do it. And like, even if it doesn't get to where you want it to get to, you would at least learn something by doing it that you can apply to it and do something later. Whereas if you sit around and like worry about doing it and not ever do it, you don't learn anything, right? And in fact, you probably just turn up your anxiety a whole bunch. And like, honestly, the people around you will get frustrated. Nothing worse than someone who's talking about doing stuff and doesn't do stuff, right? Like, just do. So like, I knew I would ramble when you started asking me questions, but I've started rambling already. But that's ramble number one.
But yeah, David, would you want to maybe talk about the role that you have in your current company, what Printify does, and also what skill set have you do you need in your current role? And then we can go more into the depth of how did you even build that skill set?
Absolutely, we can do that. So I'm brand director at Printify. So Printify is a print-on-demand company. If you don't know what that is, we basically have a catalog of more than 700 different products that we allow you to put your design on. So the easiest, the most common way to do this is t-shirts, right? Or sweatshirts. Like, you've got a cool design, you're like, I want to put that on a t-shirt. We allow you to do that. And then the really cool thing about what we do is we're integrated with some really popular sales channels: Etsy, Shopify, Squarespace, WooCommerce, all of those. And you can instantly start selling your designs online via those channels. We will source the item, so source the t-shirt, we will print on the t-shirt, we will package it, and we will deliver it to the customer who's bought it off of your website without you having to do a thing, right? All you have to do is put the design up, list it on a website, and we take care of the rest. Everything is made on demand, so you don't have to do any upfront investment. You pay us with the money that you get from the customer who's agreed to buy your thing. So like, it means that you can start an online business from scratch, from your bedroom, without any upfront investment. All you need is, you don't even really need design skills. You can source your designs from other places. A lot of our merchants do. And you need a little bit of an entrepreneurial spirit. The reason I love working for Printify, which I've been doing I started at the beginning of this year, 2022. And the thing is, we do create those entrepreneurs. I could spend the whole of the remaining 20 minutes or so that I've got talking to you about these amazing people, but there's one in particular I'd just like to point out. Her name is April Showers. She's a single mom of 2 boys from California, and she noticed one day that unicorns were all white. Right, like all of the unicorn emoji is white, and she was like, why are there no black unicorns? I'm going to make a black unicorn. So she made a black unicorn. She patented her design. She'd never done apparel or anything like this before. She created that design, and then with the help of Printify, she stuck it on some t-shirts and sweatshirts and things like that, started selling it. Young black girls obviously loved it. They were like, she called it Afro Unicorn. A really, really cute kid put it on a t-shirt. That kid was on a TikTok. You might have even seen it, where someone walks by and says to this gorgeous, adorable little girl, like, I love your t-shirt, and she goes, it's a black unicorn, and like everybody like laughs out loud. Long story short, April was on CBS News yesterday morning, because she's now selling in Walmart. Right, like physically in Walmart, the first Black woman to copyright a cartoon design, and she's selling in 3,800 stores across America. Like, and I've got 20 stories I could tell you that like that off of the top of my head. I only doing April because she was on CBS yesterday, so it's like fresh in my mind. So that's what we do. What's my skill set that I need in my job? So I'm actually the first brand person to work at Printify. So I think my most important thing is communication, right? And I would broadly divide my communication skills into 2 halves. One is kind of the written or word-based half, which includes things like, writing, grammar, punctuation on the nitty-gritty side, but then also storytelling, which is such a buzzword. And honestly, I personally think is like this overinflated thing that everybody should just be half decent at. We can get into that a bit later. But storytelling is a thing. And then there's also visual communication, which I didn't train in, but I've always been interested in and like passionate about. That's what my TED talk was about how everyone needs to be more visually literate.
I actually really wanted to know more about that as well.
I mean, for me, that was just born out of the fact that like we don't teach people how to be visually literate, but then we're bombarded with advertisements all the time, right? Like this is not even a contentious thing for me to say, but there were people who were extremely visually literate who have affected the direction of elections. The Trump campaign in 2016, the Brexit campaign, even beyond that, the places like outside of the UK and America, where the course of elections has been changed by people running advertising campaigns, chiefly on Facebook, but on other platforms as well. And they've been able to do it by being extremely visually literate. Netflix doesn't control. Netflix can affect what you see, right? Like Netflix can affect which drama you'll spend more time on based purely off of the thumbnail. They have a team that works on this and does nothing but this. You, as a woman, statistically are more likely to watch dramas with like, from what I remember is you prefer to see an eclectic cast or like 2 or 3 people for a drama. I, as a man, am more likely to spend time on that drama if there's one man in the shot with like a grimace on his face. Then like statistically I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, give me that, right? But like
Right.
it's like, and Netflix publish and share all of this information. You can read it on their
Interesting.
it's either on their engineering blog or on their product blog, but they share all of this. They can, and it depends on your gender, your age, your location, obviously your other preferences, but they do all this with visuals, right? Not words. Like you look through the thumbnails on your Netflix account, there's like next to no words. And if there are, come on, do you read them? No one does, right? Like the name of the show and that's it. And I just wanted, I got the opportunity to give the TED Talk. So the opportunity to give the talk came first, and then like, okay, what am I going to do with this platform? And it's just something I was seeing every day, that people, like, we're so affected by it, but we don't do anything about it. Like we don't try, like, why is this image affecting me more than this one? Why am I crying when I watch these two people do this in a video versus like this? Like, and I don't know if we can, change the world. I just want people to be aware of it, right? Like, because we're taught.
It also depends on being conscious about it, right? Because sometimes,
Yes,
most of the
absolutely.
time, actually, we're subconsciously affected by what we see or what we read, or things like that. So yeah, but
Yes.
you can go back and also like explain this term that you've coined, like visually literate. What exactly does that mean?
There's a few places that
Right.
that are using it. The kind of most prominent one is the University of Tulsa, which is this place in the middle of nowhere, or the middle of America, in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of America. But it's about being able, like, it is what it sounds like. It's being able to read an image, right? Look at it and go, how is the composition of this image, the subject matter of the image, the angle at which the face is shown, the light, the filter, whatever. Like, well, I'm trying to remember the statistic from the talk, because sorry, it was a few years since I've given it. But we spend an incredible amount of hours a year getting ready to take selfies, like not even taking selfies, but preparing our faces to take selfies. So if we're doing that, right, you and I are doing that, we're preparing a visual. Why not, when you get a visual shown to you, stop and think, okay, how are they showing this to me? Oh, okay, this person who's made this visual is trying to get this emotion out of me. Because and I think that's a reasonable thing to ask people to do, because we do train ourselves to do that with words, right? Like, it's in schools, we were all taught, like, I did history in school, and you're taught, like, this source is coming from here. What is this source's likely bias? What other things is this source written about? What can we tell? Is this source trustworthy? We do that with words. Why can't we do it with visuals as well? I think it's kind of essential for
really, really
good
good
decisions.
Yep. But then how do you bring that aspect in your daily job? Because again, you're the one creating content, let's say for the brands that you work for, whether it's by words or visual. So how do you bring that aspect in your the content that you create or direct for the brands that you work?
I think anyone working in marketing, I don't even want to say digital marketing, anyone working in marketing now, the tools that you have to hand are primarily visual now, right? Like, if you're running ads, if you've got a website, like, everyone's doing those things, right? Like, you've got SEO, which is obviously, and content, which is kind of like the last bastion of the written word, probably. I've just made that up off the top of my head, but it sounded cool. But like, a lot of what you do is visual, right? And the tools that, and like, we've all sat in those meetings where someone goes, Facebook tells us that, like, if your posts have a visual in them, they're 180% like. So as a marketer, I'm using visuals all day. Like, a good portion of my day is sat doing editorial, and I'm doing visual editorial as much as I'm doing written editorial, right? Like, I'm sitting there and going, this picture that you've chosen here does not represent our user. Like, this is not going to appeal to this group of people. Like, I'm not a trained designer, so I can't sit there and go, the drop shadow that you've put on this element is too harsh. Like, but you know what? For non-designers out there who have to give feedback to designers, they don't want you to do that. Like, designers don't want you to get that technical with them. They'll go speak to another designer to get like technical mentorship. But and I think this is a thing that I've learned and acquired as a skill, is how to give good feedback to visually creative people. But like, is to tell them, look, this is not speaking to the person it's supposed to speak to in the way that for these reasons, like because of this reason, that reason. And then I always refrain from, if you could just move it to the left a little bit and perhaps change the color to green, then I think I don't want to do that. Like that's for a designer to do and to work out how to do it, right? At the same time, I don't want to, like, terribly vague feedback for a designer is awful, right? If you're saying things like, it doesn't wow me, like, oh my God, yeah, how annoying is that? Like, it just doesn't wow me. Like,
true.
Go somewhere else for your wowing. Like, so you have to like, a big part of my job is kind of laying down what our communication guidelines are. So the first thing I've done in all of my jobs is go research the person that we're speaking to. So for me, at the moment it's the merchants, but at Prezi it was the presenters. At Travel Perk it was the travelers and the people who manage travel programs. And just like learn as much as you can about those people. Even now, I never turn down the opportunity to listen in or go to a call with one of those people if I can help it, because you're then building communication that has to affect them, catch their attention, persuade them. You have to be inside their mindset, know how they think, know what they like, etc. Get to know that person. Then once you do that, lay out the guidelines of how we communicate to that person. So to give you an example, at Printify, we worked out that our typical merchant is between 25 to 35. They're both male and female, but they're aspirational people. They're determined people. They're people with the learning mindset. They're self-starters. That's who our people are. So how do we speak to them? And we actually had one of our fantastic copywriters. She actually did something called conversation mining. Wow. So what she did is she went to Facebook groups, Quora threads, Reddit threads, went to communities and other things, and just like listened in and downloaded all of the stuff. She put it into a massive, great big spreadsheet, and then churned back out for us as writers, as a team. These are the phrases they use, right? And so, like, for example, she was able to say they use like a lot, like this is good, like this. They speak in. We were able to work out that they speak in hyperbole quite a bit. Right? Like if something's great, it's absolutely amazing. And if something's terrible, it's shitty and awful, right? They're not like your kind of standard European person who will be, like a British person, right? We're so bad at this. Like we say things like, it's not bad. And sometimes that means it's horrendous. And sometimes like not bad can be like the best ever thing. It's so difficult to tell with us. But guideline in place, we know how to speak to that person. And then I'm just enforcing that a lot of the time. But because I've spoken to my team about, this is the person, this is what appeals to them, this is what they like, this is how we communicate with them, then when I give feedback, whether it be to a copywriter or to a designer or to whoever, I can go, I don't like it because I don't think the user will like it. Not because it's a personal choice for me or whatever, but having spoken to them, knowing them, agreed on you with what the rules should be, I think this isn't going to work. And you know what? 9 times out of 10, like people will go, yeah, you're probably, like, they hate me for it sometimes because they have to redo it, but like, yeah, he's right on that. Or another wonderful, joyous thing happens is they turn back around to me and go, no, I think they will like it for this reason. And then I love it when that happens, because I'm going, okay, so you've connected with this user. I like it. Now let's, explore whether or not you're right. And we can go from there.
I really want to talk about, first about your public speaking skills and how did you build them? And also if any advice for people who want to get started in the branding, marketing space in general.
Branding, let's do the branding marketing space question first, because it's kind of like top of my, like if you want to get started in that, then what you need to do is get yourself into a marketing team. Like I'm talking like really, really, really start to get yourself into a marketing team. And Dave Gerhardt gives lots of great advice for people just getting into marketing. But one of the things that he says is like, make yourself useful, right? Like, so just get yourself onto a marketing team as an intern or whatever it may be, and do a little bit of everything.
Right.
And then once you've like kind of built up that trust with whoever it is leading the team, what you need to get them to do is allow you to lead one project, one campaign, or take ownership over one thing. Like, I know, just Twitter, or like we have someone who working on our team at the moment, like, and she's quite junior and she's doing TikTok, and like she like, I want to do TikTok, I'm gonna TikTok, and we were like, fine, we don't have resources to do it. If you're going to do it, let's go do it. But like, and then she's doing a kick-ass job. We had our first video yesterday that got over 10,000 views. So,
Oh wow,
but
man.
like, but what she's doing is taking ownership of that thing.
Yep.
And then what you get to do when you do one campaign like that is you get to see the whole process, right? From creative to delivery to measurement and all of that. Then once you know, you can go repeat that somewhere else, right? You can go repeat that on a channel that you perhaps don't have such an affinity for, and you can do it from there. So that would be my advice to kind of junior people looking to get into like a creative comms role. Public speaking, right? So the public speaking is, so I've done it a lot, right? And I think I've had people say nice things and say, oh, like you speak well and you're good at it.
The reason why I'm actually asking is because, yes, I have seen your journey. You know, you have a TED Talk and you've talked a lot about how you built the skill set. But from a personal experience, I have seen you present as well. So at the EU Startup Summit in Barcelona, that's where we first met. And I remember just feeling, you know, like, oh my God, this guy has a really solid presence. You know, he's talking about stories, he's talking about a brand, which I knew about it, but I couldn't really connect to it as well as I did, only because of the presentation that I heard in that conference. So I think that's why I really want to talk about, you know, how did that come around for you? Of course, everybody has their own journey and their own fears, but yeah, how did you tackle that for yourself?
So the first thing I want to say is I get nervous before I speak, right? Like, which I think is an important thing to say. Like, and the bigger the crowd, the more important, the more nervous I get. I'm like, you might not be able to see it, but I do. The nervous energy is a good thing. Right. Like, learn to love it and accept it. It means that you care, and it means that you want to do a good job. Don't run away from it. People run like, oh, it's so scary, I don't want to do it. If I just go hide over in there in the corner, I'll be fine. No, like, use the nervous energy, harness it, work out what it is you're scared of. For me, the thing that I was scared of was forgetting what I wanted to say, right? Like, I actually kind of sat there and said, like, what is it? Okay, I'm scared that I'll forget it, and then I'll be like, that's what I'm. So what I do to counteract that is I practice, and I memorize it, like, you know, like a theater kid learning their lines. However, like, you do need a little bit of improvisation skills. I have to confess, I got mine in a kind of weird place. Like, I went out to South Korea when I was 22 to travel the world. I was teaching English. I learned from basically spending 7 hours a day teaching kids of the age of between 8 and 15 a second language that they didn't want to learn because their parents told them they had to. If you can control 15 kids like that, you can, like, 1,000 adults is no problem. Like, it's no problem. So like I got a little bit of an education, like, you just, like, because you're doing it every day, you kind of learn, like, and you make so many mistakes, but it's fine. Like, you can you know, make mistakes in that environment. Things that could work for you, because you can't just go teach English in South Korea, perhaps. Like, if you can do it, it's wonderful. But things that could work for you, like improv classes, like, it's a bit cheesy sometimes.
That's actually a really good one.
People, like, if you like that kind of, I would do it. There's great improv groups. Other places. The other one is something like Toastmasters. Like, Toastmasters is incredible because of the feedback they give you, right? It's people just giving you honest feedback. So what that does is give you the space to mess up, right? So find your safe place to practice and mess up. If you don't want to do either of those things, like, I always practice all of my kind of big public speaking. I always practice with my wife. She's the harshest critic in the world. She thinks pretty much everything I do is rubbish. So if I can get her to a point where she's like,
David, she's keeping you grounded.
She's just mean-spirited, I think. But like, if I can get her to the point where she's like, it's not unfunny, then we're fine.
Oh man. Oh, yeah. But yeah, I think that's really good advice, though, you know, trying Toastmasters, putting yourself more out there, because I see now there's more focus on, you know, a lot of people that I've spoken to already during the series, a lot of people have mentioned, you know, like, try to put yourself out there, you know, like you mentioned earlier, like, just do it, try it for yourself, and then figure things out. So like, what would your advice be? Again, coming down to my last question, for people who are still figuring their shit out, just from someone who has, sort of a professional background, you do have different skill set, different hobbies, different passions that you pursue. You've tried different things. And again, working in progress, learning in progress. So what would you have to say to people who are still deciding what to even start trying?
I'd say that the first thing is, if you don't have a great big grand master plan, don't worry. Like I've never had one. And if you ask me now what I'm doing in 6 months' time, I couldn't tell you really. I don't like making plans more than a month in advance. Not because people who have those great big plans or people who are, I'm not saying that that's bad. I'm a little envious of those people, honestly. But just because you don't have it doesn't mean that it's necessarily a problem. There's a fantastic talk that you can see on YouTube by the comedian / musician Tim Minchin. And it's a university opening address, one of those things where they, address the class of whatever, and they talk, and he talks about, he's a similar person, never had a great big grand plan, but he talks about the aggressive pursuit of short-term goals. In which he's like, I do stuff and I enjoy it, and like it's going to help me provide for my family or whatever, so I do it really hard while I'm doing it. Like I do it super aggressively and put my all into it and see where it takes me, right? But like he's never been like, I'm going to write a musical by this age, I'm going to have a tour at this stage, and I'm going to like have this many downloads. Like he's not that. He just like does it to the best of his ability. So I would just say, like, do stuff and like do it really hard and do it with passion, and if you fail, at least you learn and you can like do something else and take what you've learned from it. But like doing nothing, you learn nothing.
True. Wow, cool. Thank you, David. Short on time, but we got it through. Oh man, it's such a pleasure talking to you. It's such a pleasure, honestly.
Always a pleasure talking to you as well.
Thank you so much.
Best of luck, and when this podcast makes me super famous, I'll send you some royalties.
Sure. Awesome. Thanks for taking out your time. Thanks again, man. Bye.